Welcome to our latest podcast. John Abendroth here, joined by Tom Spencer, as I am often. Good morning, Tom, and hope you're well.
Yeah, doing great, John. Excited for another major championship, US Open. And anytime the US Open on the West Coast, especially, or a major championship, I should say, and it's in the state of California, I'm really pumped up for it.
Yeah, exactly. I've even got my Torrey Pines US Open shirt on today. I'm not going to thank him by name, but thank you to you know who you are for sending me a couple of shirts. So kind of fun. And sponsored by the Handler Union Square Hotel, San Francisco, and their property in San Diego. If you plan to play Torrey Pines, that's an option for you. And by Original Joe's in Westlake, always a great opportunity there. Yeah, the U.S. Open at Torrey Pines, we all know it so well by watching the Farmers Open. My goodness, I go back to playing there prior to a lake on 18, played in the World Junior. The winner that year in 1969 was probably a guy you've run across, Dale Hayes, great South African who is now an announcer, and he was the guy back then, Tom. And in an early stage, right after Gary Player, of all the great South Africans, including the winner last week on the PGA Tour.
Well, yeah, that tournament really for decades, John, has been a way of entry for international players to come compete in the United States at a high level as juniors. And you can go back and just a little bit more recent times, Ernie Els, his first trip to the United States would have been at that tournament. Jason Day, Trevor Immelman. Of course, Tiger won it a bunch of times. Tiger basically won it at every single age level.
Yeah.
It wasn't always at Torrey Pines South, but he was winning that tournament throughout San Diego. Mickelson won it, of course. So, yeah, it's been a precursor for a lot of outstanding talent to come through the ranks, and that's been their first taste of American golf is Torrey Pines South, and that's quite a stern test.
So many storylines with this Open, this U.S. Open coming up. The favorite, Jon Rahm, we all know that he had the 6-shot lead at Memorial, had to withdraw because of COVID, and now he's the favorite there. That's a unique story. Patrick Reed is the last winner at Torrey Pines. So those two players, got to be at the top of people's lists, and many other stories that we can talk about. But let's start with Rahm. I know you were there at Memorial, and boy, what a kind of a crazy story that was.
Yeah, for sure. And actually, we got a little bit more clarity from John yesterday about what he went through. And first of all, how he's handled it with such class. Really been remarkable that he's just taken it, seemingly with a grain of salt. Obviously, it'll be many years before he kind of lets this go because, as he admitted yesterday, he did watch the final round intently and was curious to see if anybody could get to the score that he posted through 3 rounds, which they did not. So in his mind, I think he'll always feel like, that was an insurmountable lead and probably a lead that he felt like he could have, increased to 8, 9, maybe 10 shots. But nevertheless, he is certainly going to be a favorite here. He's got a lot of history at this course. He loves San Diego. He's got, good family history there, getting engaged. They had a second wedding ceremony. He and his wife were married in Spain, but then they came back in the U.S. and had a second ceremony for all their American family and friends. So, everything about this sets up for an inspirational week. Now, can he play at a level comparable to what he had at Muirfield Village? We'll see. It's only 2 weeks ago, but again, being in quarantine as he was, he would not have been practicing nearly as much as he normally would have. And that could take a toll, especially going into U.S. Open.
The USGA has been known for pairings over the years. Maybe that's where I learned my great affection for pairings. But on social media, there was a lot of people that wanted to see Brooks Koepka and Bryson DeChambeau paired the first 2 rounds. I was in disagreement with that. I felt that would put, with this little spat that they're having, whatever you want to call it, that it would put too much pressure on, sort of what they were doing rather than the play itself. Now, certainly they could be paired Saturday or Sunday, and a lot of people are really hoping for that. But another storyline right there that is unique.
Yeah, it's an interesting dynamic. I think of other sports, John, and just to draw up a couple sort of random analogies, a heavyweight fight. Who cares about the pre-fight press conference where both fighters get in each other's face and put their fists up and say, I'm going to come after you tomorrow or next week, whenever it is. I mean, let's get inside the ring and solve this in man to man. How many times has someone guaranteed victory like Joe Namath since the Super Bowl III, and thousands of athletes have not won their next day's competition, so no one remembers. Let's resolve this, like you say, in competition. Thursday, Fridays are very important. I mean, of course, in a major championship, they set the tone, but when it's really memorable is in the final round. The last time the US Open was here at Torrey in 2008, they kind of had another manufactured pairing with Tiger, Phil, and Adam Scott ranked 1, 2, 3 in the world. So that was how they based it. But, it was such a circus down there the first 2 days. I remember walking around the course, and it just like everybody else was in total anonymity except for those 3 guys. And really, it probably threw Mickelson off his game entirely. Adam Scott, I think he felt like just a third wheel. And Tiger probably didn't really enjoy it that much either, although he obviously persevered, and what an incredible win. Maybe one of the top 2 or 3 most important wins of his career. But to your point, let's see these guys maybe play, based on score. Now, the way they've been separated with the early-late dynamic, it's going to be very difficult for them to play together this week at all. It would probably have to happen on a Sunday afternoon. So this may be something that we'll have to wait for down the road.
We're going to probably see a lot of footage of the great Tiger Rocco playoff. And as I was kind of making some notes this morning, in the world of professional golf, there's not too many guys. I mean, there's a handful of guys that can go by one name, and Tiger and Rocco are 2 of those. You don't need to say Mediate, and you don't need to say Woods. And what a great memory of that. And boy, I know I did one of our Zooms with Rocco, and folks can look that up. I mean, he's just really a fresh story, and just seems like a guy you'd really want to spend some time with.
Yeah, and, you'd have to go through the history of golf. And Rocco, underrated good player. I mean, he won maybe 5 times on the regular tour, contended in big events. First time I really remember seeing Rocco, I mean, he was playing at a good high level in the early 90s. Actually, may have the distinction of being the first to ever win a tour event with the belly putter, or the putter at least up against his body, if I have that right. But he played with Palmer in his last US Open in Pennsylvania at Oakmont the first 2 days. And if you really went back, and what I remember about that tournament, Rocco had numerous chances to win. Unfortunately, he just could not drive the ball in the fairway on the par 5 18th hole, either on Sunday afternoon with a chance to win, go for the green in 2 and make a birdie, or in the Monday playoff. And if he did that either time, it might have been like a Jack Fleck, Ben Hogan type story, or something comparable to like Bob May almost ousting Tiger Woods at the PGA. But Rocco was with him toe for toe for 91 holes, and Tiger overcame 4 double bogeys. He could not even bogey the first hole in most rounds. I mean, that's a tough starting hole, John, as you recall. It's 450 or something straight into the wind, and that's your first hole of the tournament. He couldn't even hit the fairway and make a 5. Of course, the broken leg is what everyone remembers, and the putt on the 72nd hole is just an incredible putt. Under those circumstances, 1 guy out of 100 probably makes that putt, and that happened to be Tiger Woods that day, and then he goes on the next day and wins the playoff. It was awesome stuff.
Yeah, a couple other cool stories for the Open. I noticed in the pairings that Eduardo and Francisco Molinari are both in the field. That's pretty cool. Not paired together, but very cool that they're in it. And then a great scene yesterday. the Women's Open champ, and I want to talk a little bit about the Women's Open. Yuka Sasso, the eventual winner at Olympic Club last week, as we taped this, she had patterned her swing and really used Rory McIlroy as a kind of a hero figure. She stood in line for 2 hours a couple of years ago to get his autograph. And this week she had her trophy at Torrey Pines. She was able to walk 18 holes side by side with Rory, talk to him about his game. What a cool experience. And I say, good going, Rory and the USGA, for setting that up. What a cool experience for this young champion.
Yeah, kudos all around. I mean, that's just awesome. And it kind of shows you the modern day athlete. There are players of Rory's stature, men and women, that going into a major would not want to, have any kind of distraction at all, let alone in a key practice round. And yet he just says, come on out, very open and carefree. And that's who he is. And it's great that they've formed a friendship, and that she modeled, her swing to an extent after Rory's. And some kind of were saying that even technically it might even be more sound than McIlroy's. But we'll see what kind of career she has in store for her. Very, very young. Rory's going to be a favorite here this week. He's been playing regularly at Torrey Pines the last few years, so it's been on his schedule. Local knowledge will matter. We should touch on Phil Mickelson. Before Kiowa, he was not even in the US Open, right? I mean, he had to get a special exemption. He was even thinking about qualifying, and now here he is. I mean, this could be the grand achievement. Can you imagine winning the PGA at 50 and then the US Open at what I guess will be age 51, because he should have a birthday here coming up this week. He will have a birthday on June the 16th. So, hey, Phil's won 3 times on this course. All those wins, however, were prior to the big changes by Reece Jones. He has not performed well since. So Phil, kind of ironically, John, has almost like let's call it, I won't say a love-hate, I'll call it a like-dislike, or a love-dislike relationship with Torrey South. He has not been able to figure the course out in the last 18 or so years. But he's going to be, you can guarantee you he's prepared, and he's probably been spending the last 10 to 12 days there every single day trying to get dialed up around the greens and figure out how he wants to play the course.
And I saw that the betting odds, he's posted at 70-1, and I'm sure that some people put down a few shekels on Phil at that point. So pretty cool stuff there. Let's talk a little bit about the Women's Open, which ended a little over a week ago as we taped this. And the Lake Golf Course, which we've both played a number of times, the front 9 is typically the harder 9, and Lexi Thompson had a 5-shot lead, I believe, going into the back 9, and then all of a sudden, folds her tent and doesn't finish well. And unusual to the other collapses, she does not end up in the playoff, the eventuality. And wow, what a championship! And there were so many people, women, that could have won that thing, down to the very last couple of holes.
Yeah. And watching her finish on Saturday, you just felt like this is her time. She's playing so well. She looks so comfortable. She had a great up and down on the 18th hole on Saturday from over the green, which is such a hard shot. And she's in command of the tournament. But, we can go back through the history books, John. You know it as well as anybody. Arnold Palmer, 7-shot lead in 66, can't finish, losing ironically to a great San Diego native, speaking of Torrey Pines and Billy Casper. But yeah, it's such a hard course to finish on, and it's hard to win majors. It's hard to win your National Open. That's kind of the bottom line. It doesn't matter what course it's on. If you're an American-born player trying to win your national championship, that's as much pressure as you can feel in the game. And she succumbed to it. So, I don't know. Sometimes players, have just repetitive disappointment, and which, segueing back a little bit to Mickelson. I mean, here's a guy that overcame for his first 33 years, disappointment after disappointment in the majors, and then he's 34 years old, and he's winning the Masters, and all of a sudden now he's got 6 majors. So there are ways to persevere, but I think Lexi's going to have a tough time when she gets back in the hunt at future majors, letting this one go, because that'll sting for a long, long time, unfortunately.
You know, I hadn't really watched her an awful lot in previous years, but watching her swing, you know, in the Open, you know, it reminded me a little bit about Chichi Rodriguez, how he would swing and use his body manipulations to the ball. But her swing is so unconventional that I felt that some of the balance and the movements may have, you know, thrown it off a little bit, her play. And then on the last hole, the shot she hit into the bunker, you know, I'm a huge advocate of living in the area that the air is so heavy, the ball doesn't simply fly. And I think that, you know, to have a local caddy or more local knowledge could have been a benefit to her there. And, you know, that hole that plays uphill into the prevailing wind, the damp wind, and here she dumps it in the front bunker and doesn't get it up and down for the playoff is like the Olympic Club script right to a T.
Well, you're right. And Lexi, being a Florida native and Florida resident, she's used to, if her standard 7-iron, let's just say, goes a certain distance when she's playing around the country, but then she goes home and practices and plays, and that 7-iron goes 8 to 10 yards farther in the Florida heat and humidity. And conversely, in Northern California in June, that same club goes 8 to 10 yards shorter than the average distance that she hits it. And then you're under the extreme pressure on the 72nd hole of a major, and you're maybe not thinking clearly, or you just can't convince yourself that I actually have to hit an extra club here. It doesn't compute in your head. It looked like she made a good swing. It looked like she flushed it and hit it at her target, and she comes up way, way short. So there was a miscalculation there. And again, that's just something that's going to stick with you for many, many years. And hopefully the next time she's in that situation, she'll be able to make the proper adjustments.
Yep, good call. Well, listen, the U.S. Open is going to be fun as always, and happy Father's Day. It's always a great treat to have it on Father's Day. And I know my son Mike and I are already making plans on where to watch it and what time to watch it, and we're going to play a little golf earlier in the day, and so you know, it's a national treasure to have the Open finish on Father's Day for those of us that are that avid about our great game. So so fun stuff.
Yeah, happy Father's Day to you, John, and to all the dads out there that support Hooked on Golf. And yeah, it's a neat day for families across the United States on this upcoming Sunday. So looking forward to it.
All right, thanks so much. There's Tom Spencer, John Abendroth here, and we'll be check us out on YouTube. John Abendroth interviews, and great wisdom of Tom Spencer there. Thanks, Tom, very much.
Enjoyed it.